I was 20 years old when I realized I had never opened a door by my own choice. Every doorknob in our house had always been held in my father's hand, and I was just a part of the room, waiting to be let out. Hello, my name is Matilda Hayes. Close friends used to call me Tilly. I was born and raised in a small town called Harmony Creek, Tennessee. I hope my story brings you some comfort. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Your support means the world to me. I was born in late autumn of 1946. It was a time when the war had ended and people dreamed of new beginnings. But the wooden floors in our house remained worn, and my father Walter Hayes's face was always ashen. My mother Clara was a gentle woman. When she kneaded dough in the kitchen, she would hum little tunes. But when father opened the front door and came in, that humming always stopped. Like a caged bird spotting a shadow. Father regarded poverty as shame. And he locked that shame onto mother and me like a padlock. Women must be careful. That was his refrain. The world devours the innocent. I attended school until I was 11. After that, home became my classroom. Father said, "Those kids at school teach bad habits." I couldn't make friends, could only watch neighbor girls pass by laughing through the window frame. My world consisted of the kitchen's wooden floor, the edges of the Bible, and mother's knitting basket. Watching the maple tree outside the window change colors with each season, I could barely tell that time was passing. But there was one freedom, just one. Twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday afternoons, father would take me to the library. That much he allowed. Books are safe, he said. The Harmony Creek Library run by Mrs. Mabel Gable was an old brick building. Climb the creaking wooden stairs, and the smell of aged paper and leather would greet you. Mrs. Gable had silver hair and sharp eyes, but she was gentle when she looked at me. "You're here again, Tilly." She always said that. "What do you want to read today?" I read everything. Fairy tales, history books, farming guides, even old travel magazines. With each page turned, I became someone else. I walked London streets, sailed the seas, became a girl who laughed freely. The year I turned 15, Mrs. Gable quietly pressed a book into my hands. It was Jane Eyre. "Jane in this book is about your age. See how she lives," she whispered. I read that book 3 times. Jane's story growing up in a dark room but eventually finding her own voice left a small ember somewhere in my chest. But when I returned to reality, I was still a girl who woke at father's appointed time, wore appointed clothes, and said appointed prayers. When I turned 19, my face in the mirror was strange to me. My black hair was always neatly pulled back, and instead of laughter, my eyes held caution. I existed, but I didn't live. Then came the spring of 1966, the year I turned 20. The drought began, and father lost his job. The plates on the table grew emptier, and father's silence grew heavier. One evening, I heard father talking with mother in low voices. "It's an opportunity, Clara. Mr. Shaw has made an offer." Mother's sobbing followed, but I didn't understand the meaning. A few days later, father called me into the parlor. He couldn't look at me. "Tilly, good news. You're going to be married." The world stopped in that moment. The birdsong outside, the clocks ticking, even my heartbeat. I asked, "To whom?" The voice didn't sound like mine. Arthur Shaw. A farmer. A good man. That night, I knocked on my bedroom door for the first time. From the inside. But no one answered. The doorknob was still locked, after all. When I first heard the name Arthur Shaw, I received it like an unfamiliar word. But the next morning, seeing Mother's eyes red and swollen, I knew. This wasn't a blessing. Father didn't bring up the subject again. Instead, the house filled with heavy silence. At mealtimes, only the clinking of spoons echoed, and no one met each other's eyes. On the third day, I gathered my courage. It was library day. I wanted to ask Mrs. Gable who Arthur Shaw was, what kind of person he was. Mrs. Gable, do you know a man named Arthur Shaw? I asked carefully between the bookshelves. Mrs. Gable's hands stopped. She slowly adjusted her glasses and looked directly into my eyes. Why are you asking about that man, Tilly? I'm going to marry him. Silence flowed. Mrs. Gable let out a long sigh. Sit down, child. We sat side by side on the old sofa in the library corner. She looked out the window for a long time before speaking. Arthur Shaw is one of the wealthiest farmers in these parts. Lots of land, big house. But the man has never married, even at 45. People have gossiped that there must be a reason. What reason? She hesitated. It's just rumors, Tilly. But people said he's afraid of women. Or that he's hiding something. My hands grew cold. Is he a bad man? Not bad so much as lonely. He stays holed up at home, rarely comes to town events. Avoids mingling with people. But Tilly, I can guess why your father made this decision. That night, I asked Mother, Mom, do I really have to go? Mother stopped washing dishes and turned her head. Tears pooled in her eyes. Tilly, we have no choices. The rice bin is empty. Your father hasn't found work in 3 months. But I don't know him. I don't love him. Love is. Mother's voice caught. Love is something you learn later. Right now, we must survive. All of us. The weight of those words pressed on my shoulders. I thought of Mother and our empty cupboard. Father's bent shoulders and Mother's increasingly thin wrists. A week later, Arthur Shaw visited our house. I hid in the kitchen, but I could hear the voices from the living room. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I'll take good care of Tilly. His voice was low and quiet. It seemed to tremble. She's a good girl. Obedient. Raised her carefully. Father's words sounded like selling livestock. I peeked through the door crack. Arthur Shaw was tall with broad shoulders. But he stood hunched, hands in his pockets. His face was ordinary, neither handsome nor ugly, just the tired face of a middle-aged man. After he left, Father called me. Tilly, come here. I walked slowly into the living room. Father sat at the table looking down at some papers. Dad, do I really have to go? My voice trembled slightly. Father was silent for a long time. And when he finally raised his head, his eyes avoided mine. Tilly, the world isn't kind to us. I couldn't protect you. But Mr. Shaw can give you a roof and meals. That's enough. It's not enough. I raised my voice for the first time. I'm not property. I know how much you received. $2,000. You sold me. Watch your mouth. Father shouted. But his voice held more pain than anger. I had no other way. You may not understand. But this is your future. You can't refuse. That night I pulled out Jane Eyre again. Jane ran away. She refused a loveless life, a forced destiny. But I wasn't Jane. I had nowhere to run, no one to rely on. The wedding was set for 2 weeks later. Mother altered an old white dress for me. My reflection in the mirror looked like someone's doll. Pale face, empty eyes, trembling lips. "You're beautiful, Tilly," Mother whispered, but her hands gripped my shoulders tightly, as if she didn't want to let go. The night before the wedding, I sat by the window watching the stars. The Harmony Creek sky was clear, the stars shone coldly. I prayed, without even knowing what for. The next morning, Father's car stopped at the front door. I carried only one small bag. A few books, Mother's old comb, and the dreams of a girl no longer needed. "Goodbye, Tilly." Mother couldn't let go of my hand. "Mom." I couldn't continue. The car started slowly. Looking back, I saw Mother standing small on the porch, covering her face with a handkerchief. That figure grew smaller and smaller, until finally it disappeared. The drive to the church was short, but to me it felt like forever. Father didn't say a word, and I stared blankly out the window at the scenery. Standing at the church door, I thought the doorknob isn't in my hands this time either. But this time I have to enter. I took a deep breath. The door opened, and I walked toward Arthur Shaw. Toward my fate. The wedding was brief. I remember the minister's voice, Father's cough, and the sound of my heart beating. When I said, "I do," my voice didn't seem like my own. Arthur Shaw slipped the ring onto my finger. His hands were trembling, worse than mine. In that moment, a strange thought came to me: this man is frightened too. After the ceremony, we got into his car. A 1960 Ford pickup truck. Clean but worn. He opened the passenger door and said quietly, "Be careful." He didn't say a word the entire drive. Neither did I. Through the window, Harmony Creek grew distant, and unfamiliar scenery unfolded. Wide fields, old barns, fences stretching to the horizon. Maybe 30 minutes of driving. At the end of the road, a white house appeared. A 2-story farmhouse. Paint peeling in places, but it looked solid. On the porch, 2 rocking chairs sat side by side. "We're here," he said quietly. Getting out of the car, wind blew. It smelled of hay and earth. Arthur picked up my small bag and led the way. I slowly followed him up the porch steps. Opening the door revealed the living room. Worn but clean. Brown sofa, fireplace, one wall full of bookshelves. Everything was tidy, but there was no human warmth. "This is your house," he said awkwardly. "Ah, our house. Now." I just nodded. "You must be hungry." Mrs. Davis prepared dinner. She's the housekeeper I employ. Comes 3 times a week to help with cleaning and cooking. We sat facing each other at the table. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, peas on the plates. I didn't know how many months it had been since I'd seen a proper meal. But it wouldn't go down my throat. Arthur barely ate either. He just pushed food around with his fork. The silence was heavy. Only the clock's ticking sounded. "I'll show you the room." He finally spoke. The stairs to the 2nd floor creaked. At the end of the hallway were 2 rooms. He opened the left door. "This is the master bedroom. It's your room." I looked up at him in surprise. "My room?" "Yes. I'll use the room across the hall. It's a guest room, but it's sufficient." I entered the room. A large bed, wardrobe, a small chair by the window. Moonlight came through lace curtains. Everything was unfamiliar but clean and quiet. Unpack and rest. I'll be downstairs. He moved to close the door. Wait, I called out. I surprised myself with my own voice. He stopped. I could only see his back. Why did you marry me? I asked. People said you'd live alone your whole life. A long silence passed. He slowly turned around. Under the dim hallway light, his face looked tired. May I come in? He asked carefully. I nodded. He entered the room and stood by the window, the farthest point from me. He looked outside for a while before speaking. I'm not normal, Mrs. Tilly. His voice trembled. People gossip. I know they do. Why doesn't he marry? Why doesn't he come to town? I heard too. There's a reason. He took a deep breath. I'm physically incomplete. Since birth. As a man, I cannot have a normal relationship. My breath stopped. The doctors said to live alone my whole life. That no woman would want a man like this. His hands clenched into fists. So I gave up. Avoided people, lived only with the farm and books. Then why now? I was lonely, he confessed. Living alone for 45 years, I realized. I didn't want to die like this. I wanted to talk with someone, share dinner, just have someone nearby. He finally looked at me. Tears pooled at the corners of his eyes. When your father made the offer, I knew. This was a transaction. But I was so lonely, so I accepted selfishly. My chest felt like it was collapsing. It wasn't anger or disgust but a different emotion. But now, seeing you, I understand. He continued. This is wrong. You're 20 years old with life ahead of you. You don't need to be trapped with someone like me. What are you trying to say? Choose, he said in a trembling voice. If you want, I'll drive you back tomorrow morning. I'll give you money, so you can start fresh. But if you'll stay, I will respect you. I'll treat you as a friend, colleague, family. There will be no force. Never. I was speechless. In my 20 years of life, no one had ever given me a choice. Not father, not mother, not the minister. But this stranger, this lonely man, was handing me the key. I'll give you time to think. Don't rush. He walked toward the door. Good night, Mrs. Tilly. The door closed. I sank onto the edge of the bed. My hands trembled. My head was complicated. Should I run? Or should I stay? Looking out the window, the moon was up. The same moon I'd seen from Harmony Creek. But from here it looked bigger and brighter. I thought if I go back, what awaits me? An empty table and father's silence, and doors that would lock again. But if I stay here? Uncertainty and loneliness, and choice. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window until dawn. And when the sun rose, I decided. I crossed the hallway and knocked on his door. After a long while, the door opened. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Mrs. Tilly? My voice trembled but I continued. I'll stay. But I have conditions. Tell me, respect me, and be my friend. Tears welled in his eyes. I promise. I nodded. And in that moment I knew for the first time in my life, I had opened the door. 3 weeks into the marriage, Arthur collapsed. That morning, I was washing dishes in the kitchen. Through the window, I saw Arthur walking toward the barn. Quietly and slowly, as usual. Then I heard a loud sound. Thud. Followed by something rolling. I dropped the plate. I ran out. Arthur lay at the bottom of the barn steps. His leg was bent at an odd angle, and blood ran from his forehead. Mr. Shaw, I screamed. He groaned. He squinted his eyes open and looked at me. I'm okay. Just slipped. You're not okay. I knelt and examined his face. Don't move. I'll call the doctor. No. He grabbed my wrist. I just need to get home. He was stubborn. I had no choice but to support him. His weight settled onto my shoulder, and we walked slowly to the house. Each step felt like forever. After laying him on the sofa, I ran to get towels and water. I cleaned the wound on his forehead. Not as deep as I thought, but it would bruise badly. Your leg? Not broken. Just sprained, I think. He gritted his teeth. I rolled up his pant leg. The ankle was swollen. I wrapped ice and placed it there, propped the leg up with pillows. Thank you, Mrs. Tilly, he said quietly. Call me Tilly. Just Tilly. He smiled faintly, then closed his eyes. The next night, the fever started. Arthur was drenched in sweat. He kicked off the blankets, muttering nonsense. Mom, I'm sorry. That I'm strange. I stayed by his side all night. I wiped his forehead with cold towels, gave him water. I held his hand and whispered quietly. It's okay. I'm here. He was trembling even in his dreams. On the third day, the fever dropped a little. Arthur opened his eyes and looked at me. Eyes that finally focused properly. You took care of me? Yes. Why? I hesitated for a moment. Because you're my husband. Something passed through his eyes. Gratitude? Surprise? Or relief? Thank you, Tilly. Something changed after that day. Subtle but certain. A week later, Arthur could walk with crutches. He showed me the study. Come with me. The study was at the end of the second-floor hallway. Opening the door, I smelled books, paper, and ink. One wall was entirely bookshelves, ledgers piled on the desk. This was my world, he said. Farm records, financial ledgers, plans. But now, I should share it with you. Me? You're the lady of this house too. You have the right to know. He opened a ledger. Numbers, dates, notes. At first it looked like code. But as he began explaining, meaning appeared. This is seed purchases. Spring wheat, fall corn. This is labor costs. This is tractor repairs. I listened intently, asked questions, took notes. In the numbers, I saw the life of the farm. You have a good head, he said, surprised. I read a lot of books. Then would you like to read this too? He handed me a thick book. The Fundamentals of Farm Management. I read that book. And other books too. Every night I studied in the study. Arthur sat beside me doing his own work. When I didn't understand something, he kindly explained. We were people of few words, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. A month later, townspeople came. It was Sunday afternoon. I was trimming herbs in the garden. A car pulled into the driveway. A blue Cadillac. A woman got out of the passenger seat. Mrs. Harper, president of the church women's group. Stiff neck, sharp eyes. Two more women got out behind her. Hello. I greeted them, removing my gloves. Mrs. Shaw? Mrs. Harper said coldly. Yes. Please call me Tilly. We were just passing by. Came to see the new bride. A smirk played at her lips. Would you like to come in? I could make some tea. No, we're not staying long. She crossed her arms. We were just curious. A 20-year-old girl marrying a 45-year-old bachelor. Overnight, my chest sank. Was it love? The woman beside her asked mockingly. Or was there another reason? That's, from what we heard, Mrs. Harper stepped closer. Your father received money. $2,000. We heard exactly. My face burned. So what are you? Purchased goods? Or did you voluntarily sell yourself to an old cripple? Watch your mouth. A voice came from behind. It was Arthur, standing on the porch with crutches. His face was pale but his eyes were firm. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Harper smiled nastily. Finally coming out. Thought you were hiding. Get off my land. Why? Truth uncomfortable? She sneered. Everyone in town knows. Why you never married your whole life. And why you bought this young woman with money. I told you to leave. Poor thing. She said to me, your parents sold you, and this man bought you out of loneliness. Is that marriage? It's a transaction. Disgraceful. Something burst inside me. Stop. I said. What? I said stop. My voice trembled but was clear. Who I married, why I married, that's none of your business. But, yes, you're right. My father received money. And I came here without a choice. But you know what? I stepped closer. I chose to stay. By my own will. Because this man was the first person in my entire life to give me a choice. Mrs. Harper closed her mouth. You came to judge. To gossip, mock, and make a spectacle of us. But I don't need your permission. I'm here because I want to be. And I respect this man. That's all. Silence fell. Leave, I said coldly. And don't come back. Mrs. Harper started to say something, then closed her mouth. She turned and walked to the car. The other women followed. The car drove off, leaving only dust. I stood there. My hands trembled. Tilly, Arthur called quietly. I turned around. He was leaning against the porch steps. His eyes were wet. Thank you. I walked to him. And for the first time, I held his hand. We'll be okay together. I whispered. He squeezed my hand. Yes. Together. That day I realized love doesn't only come through passion. Sometimes it comes through choice, through respect, through standing together. And that's stronger. After that day, something definitely changed. Arthur and I were no longer cautious housemates. We became partners. Every morning we drank coffee together, every evening we reviewed ledgers in the study. He asked my opinion, and I participated in farm decisions. When spring came, we planted seeds together. My hands got dirty with soil, Arthur advised from beside me. A little deeper. Yes, like that. Under the sunlight, his face looked peaceful. That summer, we developed a habit of sitting side by side in the porch rocking chairs. At dusk, we'd come out with lemonade and sit. We didn't talk much. We just listened to crickets, felt the wind, confirmed each other's presence. Are you happy? Arthur asked one evening. I thought about it. What is happiness? Passion? Excitement? No. Happiness was this. Peace. Stability. Choice. Yes. I answered. I'm happy. He smiled. Me too. In our second year, we met Ella. Arthur was making a charitable donation at the town orphanage. I went with him. There we saw a 7-year-old girl. Brown curly hair, big eyes. She sat alone in a corner reading a picture book. What's that child's name? I asked the mother superior. Ella Grace. She came last year. Parents died in an accident. She's a quiet child. Doesn't talk much. I approached Ella. Hi, Ella. What are you reading? The child looked up. Charlotte's Web. Good book. I like it too. Really? Ella's eyes sparkled. We talked about books. And that evening, on the drive home, I said to Arthur, "Could we bring Ella home?" Arthur looked at me in surprise. "You mean adoption?" "Yes. Our house needs laughter. And I want to be a mother. Even if I can't give birth." He thought for a long time, then nodded. "That's a good idea." 3 months later, Ella Grace Shaw first opened our door, carrying one small bag and a worn teddy bear. When I knelt and hugged that child, Ella whispered, "Now I have a home." "Yes, our home," I answered. 3 years later Liam came, and the next year Mia. Our house filled with children's laughter. Arthur read books to the children, I cooked with them. We weren't perfect, but we were complete. The townspeople's views slowly changed. Seeing us go to church, the children attend school, the farm prosper. Even Mrs. Harper eventually apologized. It was perfunctory, but it was enough. Time passed. Ella became a teacher, Liam a veterinarian, Mia a writer. They built their own families and gave us grandchildren. Arthur and I grew old. His hair turned white, wrinkles formed on my hands. But our habits didn't change. We still sat in the porch rocking chairs at evening, still spent time together in the study. "Do you have any regrets?" Arthur asked on our 25th anniversary. "About what?" "Living with a man like me. Not having a normal marriage." I held his hand. Now familiar, wrinkled hands. Our marriage wasn't normal, that's true. But that didn't make us less loving. You gave me respect, choice, freedom. That's more precious than any passion." He cried. "Thank you, Tilly, for making my life human." Last spring, Arthur fell ill. The doctor said his heart was weak. Not long left. Arthur accepted it quietly. "I've lived enough." Happily. On his last day, we were in the bedroom together. The sun was setting through the window. The grandchildren had visited, now only we two remained. "Tilly," he called weakly. "Yes, I'm here. Meeting you was the greatest miracle of my life." "Mine too, Arthur. I love you. In my own way. I love you too. In our way." His hand lost strength in mine. His breathing grew shallower, then finally stopped. The sunset outside turned the room red. I cried. But there were no regrets. Now I'm 77. I live alone in this house. Ella visits often, grandchildren come every weekend. I still spend time in the study, sit in the porch rocking chair watching sunsets. People sometimes ask, "How did you stay happy for so long?" I answer like this: we chose. Every single day. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a decision. It's respect, consideration, standing together. A few days ago, a young woman came to see me. 22, newly married, she said. But not happy. No romance, no passion. I took her to the porch and handed her lemonade. And I told my story. A love story that started with forced marriage but was completed with choice. Love isn't measured by size, I said. It's measured by the size of the heart. And you choose every day to stand together with that person. She cried and thanked me. The sun is setting. Orange sky wraps the farm. I sit in the rocking chair and see all of this. The wheat fields, the barn, the maple tree Arthur and I planted together. The chair beside me is empty. But I'm not lonely. I can still feel him there. Holding lemonade, quietly smiling. I'm on your side today too. The wind seems to whisper. I close my eyes. And whisper back, me too. Forever. I'm Tilly Shaw. An ordinary woman who lived in Harmony Creek. But what I learned is this: love isn't a perfect beginning, it's the process of two imperfect people becoming a complete team. And that's enough. Thank you for watching. I hope your love is beautiful in your own way. Please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to see more stories. Goodbye.